East Coast. And just days before kicking off the Democratic National Convention, Joe Biden announcing California Senator Kamala Harris as his running mate. Here to discuss, Black Voices for Trump Advisory Board co-chair Stacey Washington. Hey, Stacey.
Hey, Ainsley.
Hi. So what did you think when you heard the announcement, who he picked?
Okay, so I actually had been ping-ponging back and forth. Early in the morning yesterday, they had this big, thing on Twitter where Kamala Harris had unfollowed Joe Biden. So I assumed it was Susan Rice, and I started thinking about Benghazi and the unmasking of General Flynn and how unfortunate it was going to be that all of that was going to be back out in the ether, and we were going to have to discuss those things again, and maybe there'd be some justice. And then I step away from my phone a minute to have lunch, and I'm back, and this is late in the afternoon, and all of a sudden it's Kamala. And the first thing I thought of was, that girl was me. Remember in the debate where she literally took Joe Biden apart? She peeled the skin off of him, roasted him, and had him for lunch over the fact that he opposed busing back in the day. And she was a little girl who was bused to another school district. And so she has really played up this idea that she's a traditional Black American like myself and so many others who count ourselves among the millions of Black people who are descended from slaves. But she's not descended from slaves. She's descended from slave owners. So there's this interesting dichotomy in who he chose and what he did that for. Joe Biden chose Kamala Harris because she's a Black woman, but to most Black Americans, she's not. So there's all of that racial pandering, and that's going to be the center of her candidacy and his candidacy as going for the president. And Ainsley, I think it's kind of sad because what we should be arguing about is who has the best policy ideas, who can put jobs back into the economy, who can make our foreign policy make sense. But we're not going to discuss that. We're just going to keep talking about race.
How do her policies affect the African-American community, the Asian-American community? Because her mother is Asian, Indian mother, and her father is from Jamaica. So how do her policies affect those groups?
Well, okay, so Kamala Harris supports the Green New Deal. That's $93 trillion that Americans don't have that will suck vitality out of our economy. She also supports decriminalizing illegal border crossings, giving illegals access to our healthcare system that's funded by taxpayers, and increasing taxes on hardworking Americans. So, Ainsley, I know there's this big thing about her mom being Indian and her father being Jamaican and all of that, and I did mention it. But the bigger issue is what Kamala believes in. She believes in the tax and spend, big government policies that destroy economies, and President Trump believes in the opposite, what he's actually shown for the past 3 years. So I'm hopeful that people will look past all of the discussion about her ethnic background, accept the fact that she's not Black like me, but she is a part of the Black experience in America because that's how she sees herself, and look into what she truly wants to do to us. And it's a horrible picture she's painting with her policy
it
ideas.
is historical. She is the first. She would be the first African American vice president, the first Indian or Asian American vice president. What does this mean for the young Black woman, for the young Indian woman?
Well, so I tend to look at it more as, so if he'd chosen her because he truly thought she was the best candidate. So if Joe Biden said, I've looked at all of these people, men and women, everybody was on the table, and I chose Kamala Harris because she brings a swing state to the equation. She brings accomplishments to the equation, something of that nature, then I would absolutely say this is historic. Ainsley, the historicity of this announcement is that he actually told us 6 or 7 months ago that the only people he was considering were Black women, not because of their accomplishments, but because of the Black vote, that he wants to garner that by just simply putting any Black face on the ticket next to him. So I think it's kind of a sad day that we have this historic moment, but we have to attribute it to someone pandering for votes instead of looking at the accomplishments, which there are many, many millions of accomplished Black women in America. But he didn't look at them. He looked at Kamala only because of her race.
Stacey, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Ainsley.
You're welcome. 34 minutes after the top of the hour, the media